Hi there, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you are tuning in. This is Megan Terry with Urban Harvest. I am the Community Gardens Manager, and I'm here to talk to you today about how to start a community or a school garden. And we have lots of questions constantly coming in from folks who live in Houston who are interested in starting a community garden in their neighborhood, maybe at their school. And we would like to answer some basic questions through this presentation, hopefully make it a little clearer of what our recommendations are for you if you were interested in starting a community garden in your community, and also a little bit about our network, which we call the Affiliate Garden Network, made up of hundreds of gardens throughout Houston that are part of the Urban Harvest Community Gardens program. So let's get started. First, a little bit background about Urban Harvest. So if you have heard of our farmers markets, we have one of our main farmers markets located on Buffalo Speedway, and we have over 90 farm vendors and artisans that sell at this market. We also have double up SNAP markets, which is where you can shop in local communities at a farm stand, at a farm market, and you can buy fresh fruits and vegetables with your SNAP dollars and double those with our double up program. So when you spend $30, you actually get $60 worth of produce. So our farmers markets is one of the pillars of our organization to support a vibrant local food system. Next, youth education. We work with schools throughout the city, working in elementary, early childhood education, middle schools, to teach kids how to grow their own food, how to prepare it, and how to be engaged with their local food system from a young age. We also have adult education, so we offer classes. In the times of the pandemic, we switched all of our classes virtually, so they were offered online, but normally they're taught in person at community gardens, at community partner sites, at universities in the city. And this allows us to engage folks on a range of topics from organic gardening, permaculture, fruit tree pruning, you name it. And so we always have new offerings, and tune in to our classes page if you are interested in seeing free downloads that we have webinars of interesting topics like low-tech irrigation, using clay pots for irrigation, and finding new classes that we'll be offering throughout the year in 2021 as well. And last but not least, community gardens. So our community gardens program I'm going to talk about, and we'll give you some more information and background about how we operate. Great. So first of all, why start a community garden? Lots of people start community gardens for different reasons. They want to increase food access in a food desert, or some of the neighborhoods in Houston we call food swamps. There's actually an overabundance of gas stations and fast food joints and no access, or at least within a mile or 2 miles of someone's house, access to a local grocery store where there's fresh produce, fruit, vegetables, herbs. So people start community gardens in order to address this problem. Our mission at Urban Harvest is to provide access to local healthy food, and we would love to continue this mission through building community gardens that are strong and sustainable in our communities. So I'll go through the types of community gardens in just a moment, but just take a moment to think about why start a community garden. There might be different reasons. There's sometimes the therapeutic aspect of gardening, of horticulture therapy, where it can be actually incredibly beneficial for anyone with any kind of traumatic background, working with different populations, disabled. There are millions of reasons to garden and grow plants, flowers, herbs, and vegetables, of course, and fruit. And so we want to know first, if you are interested in starting a community garden, clearly have your goal and your mission. Why are you trying to start a community garden? Who is going to be involved? Who will take care of the garden? And where is it going to be located? Is it visible to the community? Is there support of the community? So these are all important questions to be asking yourself at this point. So a little bit of background in Houston, as you may or may not know, we are the fourth largest, or sometimes I think we're the third largest city in the United States. So it's a lot of people, right? Metro Houston is massive. So in the area of Metro Houston, that's 5.8 million people, almost 6 million people. So that is a large population to be working in, and very, very diverse. Languages, culture, you name it. We also span over 100 miles in diameter and less than half the population density of Los Angeles. So that means there's a lot of sprawl. So we do have gardens and communities that look very different from each other because they might be located way up north in Magnolia or way down south in Galveston, and be completely different in how they operate, or even the climate, right? The zones where we live is very important to take into consideration. The freeze dates, the last freeze dates of the spring, those do vary depending on the region where you're located in Southwest Texas. So something to keep in mind. About our affiliate network, 80 of these gardens, about more than half, are located in low income, low access areas, which we mentioned food deserts, or as I said, food swamps, and or socially vulnerable neighborhoods. And so these two maps just kind of overlay the USDA food access research with our community gardens. So the small dots that you see on the screen are where some of our community gardens are located. And then you can see where it's a low income, low access community. And that means that they do not have a grocery store within walking distance, within 1 mile or half a mile. And then the CDC Social Vulnerability Index also shows where a lot of our gardens are located are in very high social vulnerability, meaning different social determinants of health impact the ability for children and adults alike to have healthy outcomes in their life. So how do gardens cultivate thriving communities? This is our mission, right? To cultivate thriving communities with access to local food and fresh local food at that. Community gardens truly create spaces for intergenerational connections. So that connects gardens and gardeners of all ages. You can have a toddler and you can have a senior citizen growing together, and it's beautiful. It connects people to the land, to the neighborhood, and to their community, to their neighbors, to be outside and to share in the abundance of growing vegetables, of growing fruit, of growing flowers that nature provides. And these communal spaces improve mental health and well-being. So we mentioned this a little bit about horticulture therapy, of really being a space where you can find in a city, like we said, a massive amount of people here, to actually have a space to take time to meditate, to be in nature and be productive in nature. And in low-income neighborhoods with limited access to fresh foods, community gardens can introduce growers to new fruits and vegetables and make produce even more accessible. And some of you may know, a lot of our food in the United States travels quite a far distance before it reaches our plate. And so this actually impacts our ability to reduce our carbon footprint by growing food locally, growing year round in Houston, and the ability to eat local produce is actually more nutritious, better for our bodies, eating within the seasons, and has a great impact for the environment there. And then, yeah, that sounds great. So things to talk about in terms of your community garden that you're interested in starting. We came up with, after discussion with some of our community gardeners over the past couple of years, some tips to make your garden sustainable, well-established, and long-lasting. And when we talk long-lasting, we're thinking at least 5 years. So do you have a group? Do you have a group of volunteers, of garden members, of individuals in your community that are interested in joining you in this effort? And if so, how often do you meet? What we see is that at least meeting monthly as a group with garden leaders and volunteers is a tip to make your garden successful. So having that active base of people that are actually maintaining, coming into the garden, and communicating with each other is crucial. Second, you want to have a clear leadership team that is making decisions for the garden. So this can be anywhere from a small group to an entire board, committees. It depends on your size, where you're located, and what your resources are. But a clear leadership team, someone who is a garden coordinator or a team of coordinators that makes decisions on planting, on following regulations of the land where your garden is located, all of those logistics, those, need to be in place with a clear leadership team. Third, inform gardeners of what goes on in the garden day to day. So having some platform of communication, whether it's a cell phone, email, a poster board in the garden, some way of communicating with each other of what's going on in the garden day to day improves drastically the ability for your gardeners, your volunteers, your members to know what to pick, what not to pick, and tips and tricks of gardening and being involved and engaged in what's going on. Fourth, build a large base of active gardeners. So this depends largely on what type of garden that you actually are looking to build and start. But this large base of active gardeners means that if someone's sick, if someone moves away, if someone no longer is interested in maintaining the garden space that they said they would, you can pull from a pool of volunteers or active gardeners that are just engaged and ready to be involved in your garden. So having that large group really does help make it more sustainable so that when things come up in people's lives, you're not left with, you're just yourself trying to maintain 10 garden beds that were planted that spring. And last, offer consistent events and programming. As we talked about, the garden is a space not only for growing, for nutrition, but also mental well-being, a safe space for community members to gather. So making, of course, within reason in COVID times, an ability for folks to gather there, use the space to come together, not just for gardening or around eating, right? A potluck, that really makes a big difference for people to feel like they're part of the community and part of something larger than themselves. Great. And this kind of spoke to a little bit of what I mentioned already, and it's a nice diagram, I think, that community gardens truly do flourish with these community connections. So if you're looking to start a neighborhood, a backyard garden that you want to invite community members to, you want to maybe understand who is around you. What are the other connections, agencies, organizations, people that you can connect to find volunteers, to find people to get engaged? Are there youth centers? Are there schools, churches? Engaged. We have a number of community gardens that actually garden right on the church property. So is that something that you're looking to do? Are you looking to engage your church to get involved? And how do all these connect and tie in, right? Do they provide members? Is it the actual site? Is it a meeting space? Is it a source of donations? Can you grow produce for a food bank connected to your church? There are limitless possibilities. So truly do think about who your network is, what's around you, what other gardens exist around you in your neighborhood already, and how can you connect with those gardens first to understand what it's like to start a community garden before you start your own. Issues on acquiring land. We have some recommendations for you to look into, for example, the Harris County Appraisal District or LARA lots, which is the Land Assemblage Redevelopment Authority. And so if you are looking for land, of course, that does take some time and some effort. And if you already have private land, like we mentioned, a church or a school, a community center, maybe even a private landowner, that might be a little bit different. But look into these pieces first. Or like I mentioned, find a community garden in your area. And if you'd like to find a community garden that's part of our network, you can visit our website, urbanharvest.org/gardens. And you can find out about our affiliate gardens and more information about starting a community garden and how to volunteer. We have a volunteer platform called VOMO, where you can sign up and actually volunteer at a community garden, talk to people who have been doing this for a number of years, months, decades, and find out what it takes, what they recommend, and how you can build your own community garden or build upon an existing garden, maybe a program that you'd like to offer, or bring a group of different individuals to a garden and see where you can start first without reinventing the wheel. You can also check out the City of Houston Health and Human Services. They have a number of community gardens, and they have an Adopt a Garden program. These are the gardens that were located on their website at the time that I took this screenshot, but you can visit their website, Go Healthy Houston and the Houston Health Department, to check out if any of these gardens are operating at this time, where you can visit and be part of some of their efforts for community gardens at community centers throughout the city. But again, you can also visit our affiliate garden website through urbanharvest.org. Benefits of becoming part of our network. So say you have an established garden, an established volunteer base or garden members, people who are active every month and even on a daily basis at your garden. You have the space, it's productive, you've been growing for a number of months, years, whatever that is, and you are interested in joining our affiliate benefit or affiliate network. What are the benefits? So we give individual and group volunteer referrals right now. That is through our platform that I mentioned called BOMO. And so you will have the ability to recruit local volunteers to your garden through this platform. We are prioritizing some specific communities that are low income, low access at this time, but our volunteer coordinator would be happy to work with you to see how we can make that happen to help you increase your volunteer base. You also get complimentary spots in all of our Urban Harvest classes. Those are individual classes that typically have a fee, and those are waived for community garden affiliate garden members. You also have listing on our online map where I directed you to go. So you would have a placement on there. So if someone was interested in visiting your garden, they would know where you're located and who to contact. We also give out 3 times a year free plants and seeds, materials, and education through our hub distributions. This started in 2017 as a response to gardens who said their #1 need was volunteers and resources. Resources were definitely something our gardeners needed. We buy transplants from local growers exclusively now so that we are able to distribute and contribute to the local economy and distribute those plants to gardeners throughout the entire city that participate in our network. There's ongoing gardening advice, videos through Facebook, through our email newsletter, different ways to find out and engage with other gardeners, with master gardeners to help you with any gardening advice problems and questions that you might have. We also have a seed bank. We continually get seed donations so that you're welcome to be part of that seed bank so that if you need seeds throughout the year, you can contact us. There are also a number of gardening supply stores and local retailers that offer discounts for affiliate gardens that have an affiliation with Urban Harvest. We send out a quarterly planting guide, which is available on our website, and we always send that in advance to our gardeners. And then you'll also have access to our Facebook group, the Community Gardens Facebook group, where you can post, share, and have a little bit of a larger community virtually with our community gardens and community gardeners. Here is just a map without that overlay of where our garden spans right now. A large part of our network are schools, over half, and our 25 plus affiliate donation gardens donate over 60,000 pounds of food annually. So we have a huge potential to support socially vulnerable populations in Houston through our community garden program. Here are some photos from some of our community gardeners. Some types of community gardens that are part of our network are allotments where people rent and pay a specific fee that is charged monthly or on a yearly basis, where a gardener, a family maintains one plot themselves and is responsible for keeping it clean and for planting it. And they usually are just paying to support the water bill. And so a number of these community gardens are dotted throughout Houston. Alabama Gardens in 3rd Ward is one of them. Westbury Community Garden in Southwest Houston, A-Leaf Community Gardens. So we have a number of allotment gardens that allow folks to garden their own bed for their families and choose to do what they want with their produce. Donation gardens, Casa Juan Diego is a photo here. They grow for a food pantry or a food bank that they're associated with, that they can donate their produce to. And so they have a team of volunteers that help maintain all of the garden beds, and a very strong team at that allows them to donate that produce. We have neighborhood gardens that are run just by a neighborhood, maybe in a park or somewhere close to them, and they are able to grow together and decide what to do with the produce. Sometimes they take it home, maybe they donate a portion of it, it just depends. And then there's gardens that are called enabling gardens or action agency, and those would be more focused on horticulture therapy and helping groups, vulnerable populations, utilize the garden for different forms of healing. And I mentioned the allotment garden. So of course, all the rules and the bylaws depend on the garden. There's a photo of Westbury Community Garden. And they have committees, for example, at Westbury that have different jobs around the garden. So you can make this as extensive as you'd like to have clear leadership for volunteers, for outreach, for different committees. This is one of our donation gardens that's right next to their food distribution co-op. And so the garden that produces the produce grown there is made into food baskets for community members directly that live in that neighborhood. And then our school gardens, usually these school gardens are educational, they're teaching gardens. The parents get engaged in a lot of these schools. There's a schedule. It just depends on the school and if there's a garden coordinator or if they have funding to bring a garden educator from Urban Harvest there to their campus. So it just depends. It really allows kids to be kids in the garden, learn and engage where their food comes from. Here's just a visual representation of our garden network. As I said, over half our schools. And then we have donation gardens, neighborhood gardens, allotment gardens, and we actually have 2 market gardens. So they grow to sell within our local food system. So I know that you may have more questions. We'd love to engage with you for you to get involved in any of our programs with Urban Harvest. As I said, the most important thing if you are looking to start a community garden is to go find one of our existing community gardens, volunteer there at least 3 times, get your hands dirty, put your hands in the soil, understand what it takes to truly get involved in growing produce for your community, and then make those decisions and how you can be sustainable and engage with your community, get other folks involved, bring them on, make sure that your idea is spread and that you're able to make an impact in your community, or as I mentioned, further the impact of one of the gardens that might be nearby you that you didn't even know. So find that out. Let us know if you have questions. You can reach us always at Urban Harvest or CG Urban Harvest at urbanharvest.org is our general email. We are located on Canal Street in the East End, and there is our phone number as well. You can reach the Community Gardens Manager. Again, urbanharvest.org is our website. We would love to engage with you through our classes, through volunteering, and see you in the garden soon. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.